Hi everyone, my name is Salma. I'm a current dietetics student here at the university. I'm a female and I am Mexican. So this semester we learned a lot. We learned a lot about different cultures, different races. We got to learn a lot about ourselves, at least I feel like I did. Within the class, Jody had us do quite a few assignments, and I think one of the assignments that really helped me understand this class better was the in-class writing assignment. In one of the questions, Jody asks, how often do you think about your race? And I think this is particularly important to me because I feel like since I'm non-white, I'm Mexican, race is the first thing that I see when I look at someone. It's the way I identify another person. So I don't know if I do this because I feel like the first thing that people see when they see me is race. So I'm kind of continuing on with the topic of race. I really wanted to get into racism because I feel like that was something that we talked a lot about in class. And I really want to take the definition that was in White Fragility and kind of modify it because I feel like I don't completely agree with it. So they defined racism as encompassing economic, political, social, and cultural structures, actions, and beliefs that systemize and perpetrate an unequal distribution of privileges, resources, and power between white people and people of color. So I completely agree that it is an unequal distribution of power and privileges, but I don't know if I necessarily believe that it's only between white people and people of color. I feel like I've seen whites discriminate whites, I've seen blacks discriminate blacks, I've seen brown discriminate brown, so I feel like it can't be limited to just whites against blacks or blacks against whites. Also within the same reading there is a line that talked about fluidity, and it says racism is not fluid in the U.S. It does not flow back and forth, one day benefiting whites and the next day benefiting people of color. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with that either. I think that really depends on what situation you're in. I can be a white person in a room of blacks and I can be discriminated against because at that point I'm the minority. So I really think it just depends on where you are and the situation you're in. So kind of changing gears a little bit, I felt like throughout this class I spent a lot of time trying to relate to other cultures, and one group that I found that I really related to was the Asian family and their family structure. I think they talked about the dual wage earner, split household, and small producer, and at different parts of my family's life we hit each one of these different family structures, and I always thought it was just a Mexican thing. I had no idea that there was more behind it or that it came from other cultures. So a specific culture group that I didn't know if I would necessarily be able to relate to was the indigenous families, especially after having that panel. I realized how sacred their families are, and how much trauma they went through and how much trauma they're still going through. I feel like I didn't know if I would be able to relate to it, and after doing the reading and seeing how they were forced to assimilate and how they were forced to cut their hair and they were forced to change their names and the way they dressed, I kind of began to think a little bit more about modern day assimilation. And I feel like although it wasn't by force, I still changed my hair and I still changed the way I dressed to fit this American lifestyle. And I don't know if I could necessarily describe what this American lifestyle is, but I know when I was doing my autobiography and I was interviewing my dad, he said that he came to America for this American lifestyle and he couldn't define it. So I don't really necessarily know what it is. I just know that as someone who's not from this country, it's something that we want, and it's something that we changed our customs and we changed our, the way that we are to try to fit in. And I don't necessarily mean wanting this American life being the same thing as wanting to be white. I think whiteness is something completely different, and I just still don't know if I'm completely clear what whiteness is, and I don't know if I'll ever understand what whiteness is. I think if we had the whole year to try to figure it out, we still would be at the same spot that we are now. So overall this semester I feel like I learned a lot, not only about my culture, my identity, but about other cultures, other identities, and how they related all to each other. This assignment was really difficult because I felt like there was so much to talk about and 5 minutes ended up not being enough time. So I hope I didn't kind of just ramble about random topics, but it was a great semester, so thanks so much, Jody.